Joining me right now with his thoughts on what we heard from the president, we have Fox News strategic analyst and author of a brand new book, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Good to have you here, sir. We've been beating the drum on this, you and me, over and over again. I'm glad to see Mnuchin was there in the audience today. But you know what? I'd like to see a lot more action out of the Treasury Secretary right now. What can and should we be doing?
Well, I think the president's speech, I got to give him credit on this. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of bedwetting in Washington tonight because he spoke plainly and he spoke clearly. And he did not attack the UN virulently. He said sensible things, so I got to give him credit. Yeah. And when it comes to North Korea, he's just right. I wish he'd said we'll totally destroy the regime rather than North Korea, but that's nitpicking. Overall, this was a no BS speech, and I think it's just what the UN and the world needed to hear. A
little bit refreshing. I mean, I made the point as we were going to Adam Shapiro's report. In the last 8 years, we heard a very different tone, almost an apologetic tone, right, from President Obama. We're sorry for being the United States of America. Here it was, we're proud of being the United States of America, and guess what? You should all be proud of being your own country as well.
Well, I think the thing is, Obama had much better speechwriters and, frankly, a more artful delivery. He had soaring rhetoric. Trump deals in prose. But at the end of the day, Obama's rhetoric was empty and destructive, and as he said he was always weeping about how bad the United States was. And whereas Trump, I've not been his biggest fan, but at the UN he sent the message that, hey, UN, you do some stuff right, but let's fix the other stuff.
Yeah,
hey,
you know
North
what?
Korea.
I got it, and we'll get to North Korea in a second. But I do think you're onto something. And I think he did this on the campaign trail as well. And he's threading together two themes here. One is we can do better, and we will do better. In other words, there's still an optimistic tone, if you would, Colonel Peters, to what we're hearing.
Yeah, it's really a tough thing because he breaks so much China. He breaks the diplomatic rules. But again, I think it was just the right thing to do, to tell the UN up front, no diplomatic language here. This is what we want. This is what we're going to do. This is what we'll do for you. This is what you need to do for us. Very transactional. And at the end of the day, he covered a lot of ground. But I'll tell you where he won me over. It was early in the address when he suddenly, speaking about intolerable aggression, he cited Ukraine and the South China Sea, obviously Russia and China. And boy, that was great. That's actually the firmest stand I've heard him take about Russia. And I think what it's telling us is, contrary to the worst fears on the left and others, and some of my own fears, he is growing in the job. He is listening to the right people. He's getting rid of the dead wood in his administration, bringing along really sound performers like Mnuchin, like obviously Jim Mattis. He's got Kelly running a tight ship now. And so I'm more hopeful for this presidency than I've ever been.
You know, Colonel Peters, that's exciting to hear from you. You've been quite a critic all along. So you're starting to... Hey, look, I mean, what I liked about today's speech, I'll tell you, Colonel Peters, is that it was normal speak, shall we say. In other words, you say, yeah, he's breaking some China, no pun intended, but that's okay. That's okay, because sometimes I think you got to back away from all the words, right? You bog down in these words and you lose what the message is. He makes it very clear what his message is, and that is our message. It should be our message.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, I have a weakness for stirring, lofty rhetoric. I love Lincoln's speeches. But there are times when you just have to say, buddy, I'm going to knock your teeth out. And that's what Trump does. And so, even for me, it's a hard adjustment, having been a soldier for 22 years. But I don't agree with any president and everything. But I think Trump deserves good marks for staying on message and sending the right message today.
All right. Well, okay. High marks from Colonel Peters. I think a lot of people are in agreement here. It was a very powerful speech.